Knights stormed the village, their arrival sowing chaos among the confused townsfolk. They were hunting for a man and a woman, but the villagers feigned ignorance. The captain's sharp eyes found their trail. In a flash of rage, he sent the villagers scattering in terror. A cruel smile spread across his face. He knew exactly where they'd gone. Miles away, a couple hid on a train. 𝒂𝒓𝒂𝒈𝒆 sat awkwardly in a woman's disguise, while Maddie explained it was the only way to avoid capture. Their wedding photo was plastered boldly on the front page of every newspaper. The hum of conversation from other passengers only heightened 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆's anxiety. But his bride remained unshaken, already plotting their escape. He was about to shed the disguise when Maddie revealed her plan. They were going to leap from the moving train, a true test of their newfound vows. 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 froze in the doorway, but before he could protest, Maddie was already gone, sliding down the embankment. She waited at the bottom, urging him to follow. With a scream, 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 threw himself from the train. Months earlier, servants whispered about the Grand Duke, worried by his long absences and heavy drinking. In the city slums, Grand Duke 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 scanned the crowd, his gaze finally landing on Maddie, a woman with piercing green eyes. It seemed everyone in this part of town knew her name. She prepared to make her move, her eyes locking with his, but 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 simply turned away, utterly uninterested. She pursued him, sparking a confrontation. As 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 sized her up, a man suddenly lunged from behind. Maddie dodged, and 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 swiftly pulled her out of harm's way. The attacker raged, demanding his wife's location. With lightning-fast wit, Maddie played dumb, denying she knew any missing woman. 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 tensed as the man moved to strike again, but Maddie didn't flinch. A single shot to his leg sent him crumpling. The crowd gasped at his scream while Maddie casually twirled her gun, feigning innocence. She saw 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆's unease, but he just shoved her away, clearly wanting no part in this. Maddie scoffed, brushing it off. She turned to the crowd with a grin, clutching a brooch she'd stolen in the chaos. Meanwhile, 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 walked on, his mind lost in a haze of dark memories. His mother's dying words echoed, the truth of his parents' murder a constant torment. The throne was stolen by his own uncle. For years, he played the part of a fool, simply to stay alive. Then, darkness. A bag was thrown over his head as attackers swarmed him. Just as he was about to lose consciousness, the bag was torn away. It was Maddie. She moved with brutal grace, dismantling his attackers with the skill of a seasoned killer. 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 could only watch in shock, wondering why this woman would possibly save him. But before he could make sense of it, Maddie's entire demeanor changed. She cheerfully looted the unconscious men, laughingly returning a few coins she'd gotten by pawning his own brooch. The irony was staggering. He hadn't even noticed it was gone. Then, he saw a chilling detail. His picture was in their pockets. This wasn't a random mugging. It was a planned assassination. As Maddie turned to go, 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 grabbed her arm. Letting her disappear now would be his greatest mistake. Maddie yanked her arm back, playfully mocking his boldness. 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 could only stare. This chaotic woman somehow knew his true identity, yet she showed absolutely no fear. 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 didn't leave, Maddie noticed, a knowing smirk on her face. If he wanted her help, he would have to follow. She led him silently to a small, hidden safe house. He settled in cautiously, his gaze sweeping the room, his suspicion palpable in the air. Maddie didn't seem to care. She was already pulling out papers to draft a contract, her tone all business as his mind raced. He studied her closely, his eyes catching the faint glint of steel hidden beneath her clothes. Her fighting skill was no fluke. Unfazed, Maddie continued to haggle over terms like a practiced mercenary. Then, without any warning, she showed him the unvarnished truth of who she was. She revealed the scars etched across her skin, each mark a testament to an orphan's brutal fight for survival. Seeing her unfiltered story laid bare, his own path became clear. But he wasn't thinking of hiring a guard. He didn't need Maddie to be his bodyguard. He needed her to be his wife. Maddie is stunned by his sudden proposal. A marriage contract? This was never part of her plan. She pulls her arm away, but his gaze is unyielding. He's serious, dead serious. She thought he was mad. Now he was proving it. But as he spoke, something else clicked inside her head. Did he just say $1 billion for a fake marriage? Maddie's eyes went wide. He confirms the amount, and she can't hide her delight. A deal is struck, but Maddie carefully inspects the document. Something feels off. The rules are too specific. Then it dawns on her. Perhaps 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 wasn't worthless at all. He was hiding his power so the Emperor wouldn't see a threat. 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 watches her piece it together, a flash of admiration in his eyes. At last, they both sign the contract. What began as a job has now become a bond. Only the wedding remains. Days later, the estate is buzzing with energy. Servants rush about, whispering of their master's sudden change. Some say love has finally tamed him, while others are wary. Meanwhile, 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂 rides into the village. With a gleaming carriage and a bouquet in hand, he readies himself for a grand, public proposal. But Maddie beats him to it, running toward him with a smile that outshines the sun itself. 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂 is irritated by her improvisation. None of this was in their carefully planned script. Yet he can't deny her acting is absolutely dazzling. He warns himself not to get swept away. He hands her the flowers, and her gratitude seems utterly real. For a moment, even he almost believes the act. Shaking it off, he sees her subtle cue to start. Taking his position, 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂 declares his intention to marry her. The village square erupts in cheers, swept up in the romance. But Maddie isn't done. Her next move leaves him speechless. She runs off, forcing him to chase her, escalating their performance. Then, she starts throwing his belongings at him. Now, that's what you call dedication. Before 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂 can react, Maddie pounds his chest, crying as if her heart was truly broken. Her words are a perfect match for their scene. He does the only thing he can. He pulls her into a tight hug. The crowd gasps, then roars with approval as they seal the charade with a kiss. The engagement is now official. By evening, news of the Grand Duke's marriage spreads like wildfire. As they return to the estate, gossip follows their every step, echoing through the servants' halls. Some sneer at the news. How could their master marry a woman with nothing? Others, however, secretly hope she can mend his lonely heart. In the dining room, Maddie and 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂 sit together. Maddie playfully puts a piece of her meat onto his plate. The attending servants freeze in horror. They know the chef had sabotaged her steak with salt. Oblivious to the plot, 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂 takes a bite. He immediately coughs, realizing her food was tainted. Still, Maddie casually eats, ignoring the odd taste of her potatoes. She doesn't want to make him worry. As night falls, danger lurks. A man named Miley is caught sneaking in the kitchen, but Maddie neutralizes him with ease. Far from the estate, he awakens, completely bound and gagged. Maddie looms over him, a vial of poison held to his lips. She demands answers, but the man's lips are sealed. Since he won't cooperate, she leaves him tied. But in his struggle, the vial tips, and the poison begins to seep in. Just as his life fades, 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂 bursts in. He rips the cloth from Miley's mouth, saving him from death. But Maddie only scoffs at her husband's mercy. 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒃 insists Miley is merely a pawn, and he's right. Under duress, Miley finally confesses. He was hired to poison the Grand Duke. He's about to reveal his employer, but he only stammers gibberish. 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒃 lets him go, much to Maddie's disapproval. Still deeply suspicious, Maddie presses 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒃 for the truth. He tries to deflect, more worried that she might have been poisoned, but she persists. Who was the one Miley spoke of? Hearing this, 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒃 looks down. The truth is a heavy burden. It was his uncle, the Count of Montenando. Boldly, Maddie offers to kill the Count to settle the score. 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒃 immediately stops her, but not without a rare, genuine moment. He thanks her for saving his life. As they journeyed back to the manor, a genuine question sparked in Maddie's eyes. For a man of his status, why was he so unguarded? The reason, it turned out, was terrifying. All his guards had either vanished or died. But Maddie simply smiled, vowing that with her around, his fate would change. Oh? Could the Grand Duke be falling for his fake bride already? At the mansion, the staff were already gossiping. Maddie's arrival had clearly transformed the Grand Duke. That night, as they prepared for separate rooms, 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒃 suddenly demanded they sleep together. Maddie froze, completely caught by surprise. But inside his room, any romance quickly died. 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒃 trapped her against a wall, ordering her to return what she stole. Just as the tension peaked, Maddie lifted her skirt and began revealing her hidden loot of trinkets and valuables. His annoyance grew with each item, until one object stopped him cold. She'd even lifted their marriage contract from his very own pocket. The silence was thick with awkwardness. With a deep sigh, 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒃 forced her to promise no more illegal acts in his home. Of course, Maddie hesitated, drawing out the moment. But finally, she reluctantly agreed. For now, but 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒃 was left utterly speechless as Maddie began to casually undress. She dismissed his shock, explaining it was all an act to sell their fake marriage. Moments later, they were theatrically bouncing on the bed, rolling all over to sell the story to the servants. At last, they stopped. Maddie kept chatting until 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒃 finally fell asleep beside her. The next morning, 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒃 heard the maids gossiping about the strange sounds from his room last night. It seems Maddie's plan was a little too effective. Before he could dwell on it, Maddie passed him a note. A relative was coming to question their scandalous new marriage. 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒃 tensed. To make their ruse work, he needed the approval of 3 relatives. Sensing the tension, Maddie instantly switched gears, cheerfully preparing to act as his devoted lover. The guest arrived and was about to depart when the butler approached with a serious look. He pulled Ulayan aside for an urgent matter. It seems trouble is always knocking at his door. Ulayan said his goodbyes to his fiancée. His face was stern as he lectured her about the rules. He droned on, but Maddie looked completely unimpressed. She nodded quickly, then playfully silenced his nagging words. Waving him off, she turned to the butler and the maid who would be her escort. And with a rattle of wheels on stone, her carriage departed from the mansion. Back at the manor, the butler handed Ulayan a sealed letter. On it was the Emperor's crest, a summons he couldn't refuse. Inside the carriage, the maid Rayleigh watched Maddie cautiously. Rayleigh was determined not to be fooled by her master's new wife. But Maddie's cheerful attitude was surprisingly disarming. She laughed at the views, asked about shops, and hummed a tune, acting as if she had not a single care. Rayleigh listened for any sign of greed or arrogance, the kind she expected from a new noble. But Maddie's words were different. Could she truly be uninterested in the Grand Duke's fortune? Then, as Maddie's eyes lit up at the sight of the market, the truth became clear. She'd never experienced such luxury before. She stared at everything like a child in a wonderful dream. Rayleigh's resolve wavered. Was this pity she felt? Admiration? Or was it still suspicion? But she pushed the feelings down, returning Maddie's kind greeting with a polite, stiff reply. Little did she know, she was being played. Not just by Maddie, but by the Grand Duke too. This entire charade was deeper than she knew. Back at the estate, new tensions were rising. Count Montenegando had arrived, storming into the hall. He immediately cornered Ulayan, demanding answers about this sudden marriage. He then pushed his own candidate forward for marriage, insisting she was a much more suitable bride. Appalled, Ulayan refused flatly, his voice leaving no room for argument. The Count bristled with fury. As their argument neared its peak, a new voice cut through the air. A regal aura silenced the room. All eyes turned. Maddie's entrance was breathtaking, her entire presence transformed. She moved with an innate grace, each step sure and poised, as if born to this world of luxury. It seems you've truly outdone yourself. Maddie looked every bit the part of a Grand Duchess. For a moment, the Count's fury died. Ulukian could only stare, his annoyance replaced by pure awe. Maddie's knowing smile confirmed her victory. Ulukian took her hand, praising her stunning appearance. She beamed, playing the perfect fiancé. Across from them, Count Monteneghando's face darkened. Their loving display was like salt in his wound. He came to expose a commoner trying to trap his nephew. But Maddie, ever unpredictable, suddenly called for a very specific liquor to be served. Absinthe. The exact poison the Count once planned to use on Ulukian himself. The Count went rigid, but his mask of composure fell back into place. Maddie gave him no time to recover, pouring a glass for him. Then, with a devilish smile, she downed the entire glass herself. The Count's dread grew as Maddie revealed a tiny vial, the poison Miley carried. Without a second thought, she swallowed its contents. This time, the Count lost all control. He lunged forward, yelling for her to spit it out. In his panic, he nearly confessed everything, admitting he knew the poison's lethal power. Seizing her chance, Maddie clutched her throat in a dramatic collapse. The Count shrieked, until she sat up laughing, revealing it was all an act. And just like that, the predator became the prey. Utterly defeated, the Count stormed from the room. The second the doors shut, Ulikian's fury erupted at her dangerous game. Maddie waved him off, claiming it was her plan to win over his family's trust. Still shaken, Ulikian demanded she give him the poison for his own peace of mind. But Maddie just smirked, reminding him it was already gone. Ulikian's heart had nearly failed 10 times tonight, thanks to his terrifying wife. His heart pounded as he held Maddie tightly, shouting for a physician. Sheer terror crossed his face. What if the poison was real? But Maddie remained unshaken, pushing him away. She swore the poison was harmless to her, ordering him not to appear vulnerable before others. Your enemies, she warned, will use any weakness against you. Ulikian watched her, wondering if this too was just a performance. For now, he played his part, forcing a calm expression as he thanked her. Leaning in, he placed a soft, grateful kiss on her cheek. Maddie blinked, startled by the unexpected tenderness. As the sun rose, a disguised Maddie slipped into the city's heart. She sought an old ally, moving swiftly through twisting alleys to a secret rendezvous point. The moment she arrived, she warned her friend they were being followed. Her ally, Knox, just grinned, his eyes gleaming as he got right to it. Is your marriage to the Grand Duke the real deal? 7 years ago, Maddie found Knox thieving in a dark alleyway. But instead of punishment, she taught him the art of survival, how to steal, con the rich, and live on his own terms. He'd been her little brother ever since. But now, Maddie chose her words with care. The truth of her contract marriage would make him a target, a risk she would never take. So she spun a tale of love, her words so full of warmth and detail, it was impossible to doubt. Knox only sneered, mocking the Grand Duke as some fragile nobleman. At that, Maddie's patience broke. A sharp kick silenced his insults. He cried out, but his teasing smile remained, saying she had gotten soft. With hardened eyes, she gave him a new mission: investigate the man behind their problems, Count Monteo. The name alone changed the air in the room. Even Knox's playful demeanor vanished. He understood this wasn't one of her usual jobs. This wasn't about survival. It was now about protecting 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆. Well, protecting his money, and finishing the war her enemy had declared. And Knox saw a fire in her eyes he hadn't seen in years. Knox agreed to her request, though a knot of fear tightened in his stomach. He knew this wasn't a bluff. When she swore she wouldn't kill the Count, honoring her deal with 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆, he was left speechless. For a boy raised on deception, hearing her speak with such conviction felt entirely foreign. Maddie dismisses his worries, her voice firm with unyielding resolve. She declares her love for the Duke, swearing to protect their marriage from any scheme. Knox just stares, caught between awe and utter disbelief. He wonders if Maddie herself is losing sight of where the act ends and the truth begins. With a wry smile, he wishes her well, though his eyes betray a deep worry as she leaves. Meanwhile, back at the manor, 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 broods alone in his study. The Emperor's letter sits on his desk, its words a poison seeping into an old wound. His fists clench as he rereads it before finally casting it into the fireplace. The flames consume the paper, but the memories it summoned refuse to die. His mother's death plays in his mind again, a raw, suffocating ache filling his chest. He fights for composure, but the sound of sudden footsteps shatters the silence. Maddie enters, her gaze sweeping over the scattered papers, the smoke and the cold fury radiating from him. She seems startled, not by the chaos, but by the news she carries. Leaning in, she whispers that they're being watched. The revelation pierces through 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆's dark thoughts, yanking him back to the present. He knows instantly what must be done. He rises, taking Maddie's arm, and together they resume their roles. As the hidden spy watches, the couple draws closer, their act becoming a dangerous reality. Maddie tilts her face upward. 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 lowers his head, their lips meeting in a kiss that seals their deception. Talk about dedication to the mission. Their lips touch, and 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆's chest tightens with unnamed emotions. Maddie's bold promises echo in his thoughts, his heart beating faster than he can control. It seems our cold-hearted Duke is discovering his heart isn't quite so frozen after all. He tries to dismiss it as part of the act, clinging to the contract, but the lingering warmth tells him otherwise. The spy stays longer than they anticipated, forcing them to maintain their loving charade. Each moment pushes them toward a truth neither is ready to face. Just as the tension peaks, Maddie pulls back, signaling the spy is gone. The silence that follows feels heavier than the kiss itself. 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 appears calm, but he can't stop replaying that moment in his mind. The next morning reveals a strange scene. Maddie is awkwardly curled up on a carpet while her gown covers 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 like a blanket. He hurries to wake her, confused by the sight. But before he can ask, a knock interrupts them. The butler stands at the door, his eyes glinting with amusement. A guest has arrived. Soon 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 enters the hall, perfectly dressed but still haunted by yesterday's events. Crockton Vinyl, his old friend, is waiting. His sharp eyes miss nothing. Crockton's greeting is warm, but his words cut deep. He mentions some unsettling rumors. Someone is claiming Maddie has been seen with another man. 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 freezes as the details sink in. They match Maddie perfectly. He tries to dismiss it, but his clenched fists reveal his inner storm. Is that a hint of jealousy on the Grand Duke's face? Crockton says Maddie is seen with this other man quite often. The description rattles 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆, making him demand more details. His frustration reveals how deeply the rumor has affected him. Crockton keeps pushing, but his tone softens. He's surprised to see his friend this vulnerable. He adds the mysterious man isn't even Maddie's rumored type, which only stokes 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆's anger more. Yet deep down, he can't bring himself to believe Maddie would actually betray him. Crockton then mentions a woman named Astrid, but 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 instantly shuts him down. I wonder who she is. Just then, Maddie enters, her presence clearing the heavy air like a fresh breeze. 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 puts on a calm face, introducing her, but she and Crockton clash almost immediately. Their words are sharp, neither willing to back down. In a single fluid motion, Maddie draws his sword, displaying perfect, deadly form. Her stance is sharp and commanding. Crockton conceals his shock, but the point is made. This duchess is no fragile flower. 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 scolds her for being reckless, torn between pride in her skill and annoyance at her audacity. Crockton leaves, his eyes still filled with suspicion. He is wary of Maddie and what she truly represents. Later, 𝒂𝒓𝒂𝒈𝒆 confronts Maddie in the garden. He scolds her for provoking Crockton, but she shrugs it off, claiming his friend has a hidden agenda. 𝒂𝒓𝒂𝒈𝒆 denies it, but jealousy still twists inside him. His worries finally spill out as he asks about Knox, her supposed secret lover. Maddie just bursts into laughter, dismissing the absurd accusation without a second thought. Swift as a shadow, she leaps onto her horse, leaving the stunned 𝒂𝒓𝒂𝒈𝒆 in the dust. Smirking, she gallops off to hunt the truth alone, leaving her husband far behind. He watches her go, torn between burning jealousy and an undeniable, growing fascination. Maddie streaks across the fields, eyes blazing. Crockton is definitely the snake behind the spy. Her assassin's gut never lies. For 2 long days, she becomes Crockton's invisible shadow. His every move reeks of conspiracy. Crouched in the stalls, she tracks his every step. Faced with discovery, she morphs into a gossiping noble, blending into the crowd with ease. A master of deception, Maddie slips through the village cracks like a silent ghost. Her gaze sharpens as Crockton vanishes into a dark, secluded corner of the town. She learns the house belongs to an outcast mother. Why would a noble visit them? Playing the polite lady, she uncovers a name that haunts her thoughts: Astrid. Why is Crockton meeting her? And why has 𝒂𝒓𝒂𝒈𝒆 kept this woman a secret? Dread coils in her chest. Is her fake husband hiding a far darker truth? To survive this marriage, she must drag every one of 𝒂𝒓𝒂𝒈𝒆's skeletons into the light. At the manor, whispers turn toxic. Has the mysterious bride finally shown her true colors? But some stand firm, defending the sincerity they've seen in Maddie's surprisingly kind eyes. Even the cynical chef can't deny it, Maddie isn't the villain the world made her. The bickering stops instantly as a lone, familiar rider appears on the manor's horizon. Maddie returns, battered but unbowed. The staff rejoices, yet a heavy tension still remains. Inside, 𝒂𝒓𝒂𝒈𝒆 is spiraling. Did she abandon him? Or was his assassin wife finally captured? Relief turns to dread as the butler pales, announcing Maddie has returned in a terrible state. 𝒂𝒓𝒂𝒈𝒆 storms through the grand doors, his frantic eyes locking onto her weakened form. He lunges to her side, hands trembling with a desperation he can no longer hide. Were you with another man? The invincible Grand Duke is finally losing his absolute composure. A public breakdown. The servants watch in frozen shock as their master's mask shatters. They've never seen him so undone. Maddie smiles softly, vowing her soul to him. But 𝒂𝒓𝒂𝒈𝒆's heart remains guarded. Is this love, or just her most lethal performance? Consumed by jealousy and fear, he turns his back, unable to face his own emotions. Loyal hands reach out to steady Maddie as the servants form a protective wall. Her fragility breaks their hearts. As she's led away, tears finally fall from Maddie's eyes. These aren't tears of weakness, but gratitude. For once, she truly isn't alone anymore. The atmosphere shifts instantly. Her former critics now weep openly, moved by her spirit. The kitchen erupts into action, determined to nurse their mistress back to full health. Feast in hand, she's no longer an outsider, she's the beloved heart of the entire estate. Watch out, 𝒂𝒓𝒂𝒈𝒆. Your bride has stolen every heart, but morning peace is short-lived. An imperial carriage thunders through the gates, bearing a guest with a terrifying aura. Solemn Barlos enters with icy elegance, her pride as sharp as a poisoned blade. Maddie's fragile happiness is about to face its most brutal, high-stakes test yet. 𝒂𝒓𝒂𝒈𝒆 freezes. This woman's bloodline is forever stained with the murder of his parents. His face turns to stone. He refuses her welcome and bars her from his side. A brutal public snub. Salem's haughty pride is crushed beneath the Duke's icy fury. Suddenly, Maddie intervenes, stealing a daring kiss that leaves the entire room breathless. She flees with a mischievous laugh, and 𝒂𝒓𝒂𝒈𝒆 instinctively gives chase, his mask gone. The servants scatter in their wake, swept up in the couple's chaotic romantic energy. Salem stands humiliated and alone. In this house, the Grand Duke's word is absolute law. Salium lashes out in a frantic rage, striking his cheek, yet his resolve remains unshaken. Her fury boils over as she swings again, only for her wrist to be halted midair. Maddie catches her arm with a mocking smirk, snatches the glove, and delivers a humiliating counterslap. The crowd gasps in shock. Maddie moves with lethal precision, effortlessly neutralizing the rushing maids. With a graceful flick, she sends them stumbling, their discarded pride landing at Salium's trembling feet. Trapped and fuming with indignation, Salem finally accepts Maddie's deadly provocation. Suddenly, a sleeve slips, revealing a mysterious mark. Maddie's sharp eyes catch it with instant suspicion. Salium strikes first with a brutal slap. a blow so violent it silences the entire courtyard. Oh, 𝑭𝒂𝒓𝒓𝒊𝒂𝒈𝒆, that was a fatal mistake. You may have just triggered your own ultimate downfall. A thunderous roar shatters the air. Ulian has returned. Salam's heart swells, foolishly expecting his protection. Ulian storms through the crowd, his gaze locked on Maddie while Solo becomes completely invisible. His hands hover with rare agitation, as if Maddie might shatter from a single touch. Our icy Grand Duke has turned into a frantic mess. Maddie truly has him completely captivated. 𝑭𝒂𝒓𝒊𝒂𝒈𝒆 dares to protest, but 𝑦𝒂𝒑𝒄𝒄's murderous glare silences her. He witnessed every bit of her malice. How she dared touch his people. She is brutally reminded that she is an unwanted intruder. The atmosphere turns frigid. Even the Emperor's shadow cannot bend the Grand Duke's iron defiance. In his estate, his word is law, and his protection belongs solely to Maddie's mischievous spirit. Maddie taunts 𝑭𝒂𝒓𝒊𝒂𝒈𝒆 about their duel, knowing her rival's pride will never allow a retreat. With venomous speed, 𝑭𝒂𝒓𝒊𝒂𝒈𝒆 strikes Maddie again, leaving 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒂𝒈𝒆 frozen in a state of pure horror. Earlier, Maddie had urged 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 to play along, making their fake romance look desperately convincing. Though he initially protested, her radiant, enchanting smile quickly unraveled his every icy defense. Later, within his private chambers, 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆's bottled-up frustration finally reaches its breaking point. Striking her wasn't the plan, he fumes, while Maddie just laughs, soothing her reddened cheek. She insists 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 deserved every bit. He groans, torn between burning anger and suffocating worry. His path is set. He will defy the Emperor himself to stand by no one but her. Heavy, unspoken words linger in the air. Before he departs, Maddie's curiosity strikes like a blade. She asks if he ever loved another. Never, he vows, his answer immediate and unwavering. She beams with pleasure, but as the door closes, her smile fades into a haunting memory. That silver-haired child from the village? 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆's denial feels like a lie too heavy to ignore. At the palace, Ulian seeks the Emperor, determined to end this dangerous game face-to-face. Beneath the Emperor's fake warmth, tension brews. Meanwhile, Maddie tends the butler with unexpected gentleness. She presses a warm egg to his bruise, her playful antics masking a heart of gold. The butler is stunned. This girl of mischief possesses a soul brimming with genuine, hidden kindness. But her next sudden inquiry is so scandalous, it nearly makes the poor man choke. She asks if 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 has a hidden woman, demanding the cold truth from his closest confidant. He quickly swears there is no one else, that Ulian's heart belongs solely to her. Yet, when Maddie drops a specific name, the butler's entire expression shifts in an instant. Unable to keep the secret, he reveals a bombshell. 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 actually has a hidden niece. A twist no one expected. Maddie's shock deepens as the butler begins the harrowing tale. 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 had a twin sister whose very existence was a secret buried by tragedy and love. After their father's death, their mother severed all ties, forcing the twin into a commoner's life. Maddie listens in disbelief. The fate of Ulian's lost twin has remained a mystery until today. Finally, Maddie understands the painful necessity of the shadows 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 has been forced to walk. Sensing her turmoil, the butler reaffirms that 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆's love for Maddie has never once wavered. Relief floods her face, and her radiant, world-brightening smile finally returns in full force. Maddie practically glows with joy, her love for 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 obvious as she clings to his hand. Our fiery heroine just needed to know he was on her side. And from the looks of that smile, she's fallen for him harder than ever. In the carriage, 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 is consumed by a heavy silence. He replays the palace disaster, his hands clenching into fists. He went there with one goal, to demand the Emperor let him attend the ball with his fiancée. Just an hour before, 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 had made his stand in the throne room. His words were sharp and unwavering. He would only attend the ball with Maddie beside him. The Emperor's face turned to stone, calling her a stain on their family's honor. A common woman unworthy of the grand stage. But 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 refused to yield. Channeling Maddie's own fiery spirit, he raised his voice, defying the Emperor himself. His defiance shook the court until the Emperor roared for silence, refusing to hear more. The audience was over. 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 was dismissed in fury. Now, the sting of those words haunts him, along with the fear of what it means for Maddie. He arrives at the estate only to find Maddie has vanished. Rayleigh informs him she left early that morning. Meanwhile, Maddie returns to the slums, keeping her promise to Knox. Her noble disguise fools him for a moment, but she gets straight to the point. She demands to know what he's found on Count Montenay. Knox hesitates when she mentions the rumors about her, clearly disturbed. Maddie just brushes it off with a smirk. She's already handled those fools. But when she presses about Montenay, Knox freezes. He knows something, but he's clearly hiding the full truth from her. Maddie's eyes narrow. She vows to get the Count's approval for her marriage. 2 days later, the grand ball finally begins. The ballroom glitters with nobility, but Salium's rage is about to explode. She seethes at the Grand Duke's coldness, ready to cause a scene until she sees someone who makes her blood run cold. Maddie. Well, look who just became the center of attention. Salium can't hide her rage watching 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂 She moves to enter by his side, ready to reclaim her rightful spot. But 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂 coldly refuses. His voice is calm, but his words are like daggers. He will only stand with Maddie. Any disrespect from Salium will not be tolerated, a direct hit to her pride. At the entrance, the guards block their path. An invitation is required. Maddie doesn't even flinch. She turns away with practiced grace, a performance designed to win the noble's pity. Whispers immediately begin to spread. Her flawless sorrow works perfectly, and 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂 is part. Inside, their plan is working. The nobles murmur about the loyal beauty left outside. 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂 face. To everyone watching, his heart clearly belongs to another. By a window, he's cornered by his cousin, Princess Miel. The exchange is so painfully awkward, the princess quickly flees in embarrassment. The emperor and empress watch on, their disapproval heavy in the air. They've seen 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒂𝒃's strange behavior all night, and it all revolves around Maddie. Then, a sudden uproar. News tears through the hall. Maddie has been taken hostage. 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒃 explodes from the ballroom, his eyes instantly finding her. A stranger is holding her tight, the air crackling with a strange tension. The man's voice is filled with disbelief. He calls her name like a prayer, whispering that she's alive. Maddie stares back, utterly confused, denying she knows him. He introduces himself as Jan. But before he can continue, 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒃 intervenes, snatching Maddie from his grasp with a dark, possessive glare. Jan doesn't resist. His eyes remain locked on Maddie, as if she holds the key to his entire world. But 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒃 doesn't care. He pulls her away from the palace without a second thought. On the way home, Maddie insists she has no clue who Jan is, dismissing it all as a mistake. 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒃 doesn't press her, but a shadow of doubt lingers in his silence. He clearly doesn't believe her story, but says nothing for now. A week later, Maddie meets Knox again, hungry for news on Count Montenay. But there's nothing. Every lead is a dead end. But Maddie refuses to quit. Determination hardens her gaze. If the truth won't come to her, she'll hunt it down. In disguise and ready to leave, she pauses, asking Knox if he's ever heard of someone named Jan. His answer is swift and certain. Never. Maddie shoves the thought away, focusing on ʔoktin's secret dealings to find Astrid's trail. She's not giving up. If no one will give her answers, she will carve them out of the world herself. While tailing ʔoktin, Maddie watches him meet with the same one-eyed spy who had been following her. He also sold secrets about Astrid's state, taking a hefty reward for his treachery. The maid's weekly departures are a clear sign. He's consistently leaking information. Elsewhere, Maddie silently approaches a house. ʔoktin is a lingering threat to Elian, but not tonight's priority. Men like him carelessly guard secrets. His judgment will come. She picks the lock with a hidden tool and steps inside to see a dark figure. Meanwhile, in the slums, a cloaked man meets an old investigator, who is actually Knox in disguise. The client asks for a simple investigation, but the name Maddie erases Knox's smirk. Under pressure, the client reveals his face. It's Maddie's fiancé, 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒃. He confesses that love can't reveal all truths, forcing his hand. Knox, still disguised, tests him. Would he marry a thief? Someone greedy or a heavy drinker? 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒃 sees virtue in every flaw. Resourceful, quick, and strong. He only wants to share whatever burdens she carries. He warns Knox, Maddie must never know. He promises more money and will return in 10 days. As 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒃 departs, Knox is stunned. A man like that wants to marry his old friend, Maddie. But 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒃's mind is elsewhere. Is Maddie out again in the shadows tonight? Bloodied but defiant, she ends a man's life. His style was aggressive, his clothes odd. She smirks, thinking her fiancé would faint at this scene. This isn't 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒃's style at all. It must be ʔoktin and the one-eyed spy. Her dagger shatters. She grabs a glass shard. A shadow moves. It's a woman with a sword. Maddie repels the attacker, storms through the house, and throws open a door. Astrid is inside. The assassins freeze at Maddie's arrival. Their mission was clear: kill the woman, destroy the room, then vanish. An unexpected obstacle. Maddie's mind races. She had planned to send 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒃's family away under new names. But with 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒃's sister now dead, Astrid cannot be left to fend for herself. A careless escape could alert their true enemy. Losing his last family member would surely break him. If his will shatters, their contract is void, and Maddie's life would be ruined as well. She offers Astrid a warm smile, saying she looks familiar. Gently, she insists she means no harm. "Come with me," she offers. "I'll be your mother." The nanny claims the role, but Maddie sees the lie. An assassin grabs the nanny, a knife at her throat. Their orders: kill her and take the child. Maddie's smile is cold. "Thank you for sharing." She promises they won't be leaving this room alive. 5 moles on his hand. Maddie recognizes the mark. It has to be the Harvin gang. Before he can react, Maddie moves. "Cover Astrid's eyes," she yells, taking them all down in an instant. Maddie dons the assassin's clothes, startling Astrid. She quickly explains it's a disguise, sent by the master to protect her. The nanny's question is a fatal mistake. Why not Crocton? And in that moment, Maddie understands everything. Crocton was the mastermind. Even the nanny was his spy. A burning rage builds. Maddie instantly grasps Crocton's twisted plan. He would stage a crisis, then hide Astrid away, all to control 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 through his worst fears. A horrifying memory flashes through her mind. Chains and someone being force-fed. This cruelty cannot stand. She turns to Astrid. She holds out her hand. "Let's go!" But Astrid flinches away. So Maddie decides to tell her the truth. "I'm 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆's friend. I'm here to keep you safe." Seeing Astrid's silence, she suggests the girl just nod. Astrid nods. Maddie then sees the scars on her hands and legs. The thin clothes in the biting cold. Did the nanny do this? Did she tell you to always say no? Astrid nods again. Maddie then offers a choice. They could wait for the nanny, or leave now and read a storybook. "I can hear your thoughts, you know." "That's how I knew you needed help." Maddie promises to hold her tight, so she won't be scared. Finally, Astrid takes her hand. Maddie pulls the small girl into a warm embrace. Meanwhile, General 𝑨𝒔𝒔𝒂𝒈𝒆 arrives at a grand hotel. A bellhop delivers his requested clothes. He pays, refuses breakfast, and returns to his room alone. He removes the wig, revealing his true face. It's Knox. He remembers how the Count of Montenegrin fell for his trap. The betting slip trick almost backfired when the Count disappeared for a whole week. But today he returned, ecstatic about his fake winnings. He'd already lost the 1,000 dillion he thought he had. Still, Knox led him to one more big win. The Count knew nothing of 𝑨𝒔𝒔𝒂𝒈𝒆, only his claimed Persian heritage. To the Count, his fine clothes suggested a man blessed by luck. But 𝑨𝒔𝒔𝒂𝒈𝒆's success wasn't fortune. He bought his victories, bribing jockeys and fixing races to earn the Count's trust. Soon, the deception will reach his mistress, setting Knox's true plan into motion. It's time for the real game. Knox arrives at Maddie's house, only to find her holding a child. She even calls him Uncle Knox. His mind spins. This must be Maddie and 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆's child. Seeing Astrid's age, he demands to know how long they've been together. Maddie simply puts the girl to bed. She leaves Astrid in his care, promising to return with 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 by dawn. Before leaving, she warns him that Astrid barely speaks. Alone, a baffled Knox asks the child what happened. Elsewhere, 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 is buried in work, the cost of his weeks away with Maddie. His father's words echo in his mind. Royalty isn't a reward, it is a burden for the people. After all, true leadership is not a privilege, but a heavy duty. 3 nights have passed and Maddie still hasn't returned. He wonders if she ever will. He admits to Philip, his butler, that he can't understand why she left. She promised to stay by his side. What did that promise mean if she could just vanish? Philip notes his exhaustion, saying Maddie would want him to rest. 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 knows she'd see his fatigue, but not the reason for it. He waits up for her. Not as his partner in crime, but as something more. Later, as he gets into bed, he feels a sudden touch. Maddie is lying beside him. He flinches, ordering her to get out. But she teases him about their contract, saying they should act like a real couple. His heart pounds, but he dismisses it as trauma. There's no way he's flustered, right? Yet near her, he feels a strange sense of peace. But the air leaves his lungs when she casually mentions meeting his niece. 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆's tone turns serious as he asks who she met. When she whispers Astrid, his greatest weakness, he demands to know what she has done. Maddie smirks, saying she merely secured his weak point. Now, they both hold each other's secrets. Furious, 𝑭𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 seizes her arm. Since his proposal, she has been his biggest vulnerability. Maddie shoves him away, reminding him their contract forbids secrets. Why would he hide his niece? He wouldn't dare expose Astrid to a con artist like her. Then why, she snaps, was the child left so unprotected? Tension explodes as he pins her, snarling that she can't grasp what he's done to protect Astrid. Did she kill her? Maddie says she only moved her, adding that his fortune was never for revenge, but for Astrid. Stunned, he accuses her of digging into his past. Maddie coldly admits she trusts no one and verifies everything. To her, this is just business. She tells him to brace himself for a truth he can't imagine. On horseback, Maddie reveals the horrible truth. Astrid was being abused. Thin winter clothes and hidden scars told the story. Worse, assassins were holding the girl and her nanny hostage. Of course, Maddie dealt with them before Astrid even knew. 𝒂𝒓𝒂𝒈𝒆 seethes. Does she find killing amusing? Maddie just grins. She protected his weakness perfectly. When he argues, she calls herself the best, someone who is never discarded. That word sends a chill down his spine. Arriving at the safe house, he asks about the nanny. Maddie shrugs. Crockton was to handle her. 𝒂𝒓𝒂𝒈𝒆 is doubtful. Then, while fixing his tie, Maddie reveals the final, devastating blow. She posed as the assassin and discovered who ordered the kidnapping. It was his dearest friend. A flashback reveals what happened just before Knox found Astrid. Early yesterday, Maddie coached Astrid to play the part of a terrified child, kidnapped by a monster. Leaving the girl to count with her eyes closed, she confronted the captured assassin, demanding the location of the client meeting. Trembling, he gave it up. Sederon Street, 3rd Avenue. Disguised, Maddie went to the rendezvous point. Crockton was waiting. She demanded payment before handing over Astrid, who then ran to him, recognizing his voice. He tossed Maddie a sack of coins, telling her to confirm the amount. As she knelt to check, he drew his sword, cutting her down in a bloody slash. Hearing her cry out, Astrid peeked, thinking the game was finished. But Crockton calmed her, saying he punished the bad man who took her. But something felt terribly wrong. The veil is lifted, but the face beneath isn't Maddie. Crockton's gaze remains chillingly devoid of remorse. No matter. With 𝒂𝒓𝒂𝒈𝒆's niece as his hostage, Crockton's sinister web is now perfectly spun. He'll fabricate a phantom spy, turning the desperate 𝒂𝒓𝒂𝒈𝒆 into a mere puppet on strings. Dragged into the shadows, Astrid is warned. Never look. Then, the heavy thud of a locked door. Trembling, Astrid counts to 100 Maddie's old trick. Suddenly, the nightmare breaks. She finally awakens. He whispers that Maddie never breaks a promise. To Astrid, Maddie is a savior twice over. The door swings open. It's Maddie and 𝒂𝒓𝒂𝒈𝒆. In the child's eyes, she is a true superhero. 3 years prior, a ghostly woman blocked 𝒂𝒓𝒂𝒈𝒆's path, stopping his royal carriage in its tracks. A plea for the mute Astrid. 𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 gasps. It's his long-lost twin sister, the missing 𝑨𝒔𝒔𝒂𝒔𝒔𝒊𝒏. Memories of the palace fire flashback. 𝑨𝒔𝒔𝒂𝒔𝒔𝒊𝒏 had vanished into the smoke that fateful night. Their mother stayed silent, leaving 𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 to mourn. Now, he's flooded with 1,000 desperate questions. 𝑨𝒔𝒔𝒂𝒔𝒔𝒊𝒏 offers no answers. She thrusts the child into his arms and vanishes into the dark. His search ends in tragedy. He finds her lifeless body in a desolate, ransacked forest hut. She knew her end was coming. She sacrificed everything to bring Astrid to safety before being hunted. They buried her in secret, but Astrid's soul seemed to have died with her mother that day. No smiles, no tears, only a hollow shell. Looking at her, 𝒂𝒓𝒂𝒈𝒆's heart shattered into a million pieces. Drowning in guilt, he turned to the one man he trusted above all others, his friend Crockton. Keep her safe, 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 begged, unknowingly handing his niece to a wolf in sheep's clothing. Years of silence pass, but today, Astrid finally smiles. Maddie has made her lonely heart bloom. 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 offers to help, but Maddie intercedes. A lady's bath is no place for a duke. To 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆's dismay, Astrid clings silently to Maddie, choosing her savior over her own royal kin. Alone with Knox, the truth dawns. Knox was the spy! And romance? Knox recoils in pure horror. Maddie returns with a bombshell. 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆, you fool. Astrid is actually a boy. Knox freezes in shock while 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 just shrugs. You dressed a boy as a girl? You weirdo. Astrid delivers a swift smack. Maddie explains. That's the penalty for anyone speaking ill of others. A child hidden away has no choice. Such madness belongs in a hospital, Maddie quips. It was for protection. 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 snaps back. The silk and lace were but a necessary camouflage. If the Emperor's daughter felt threatened, Astrid's life would be forfeit. A girl's face is safer. The logic holds, but Maddie's mind begins to fracture. Dark, buried memories suddenly come crashing back. Faceless children, stripped of identity, trained to kill. Then, the cold sting of a forced injection. 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 reaches out in concern, but Maddie snarls, swatting his hand away in a blind, traumatized fury. Knox breaks the tension before things turn ugly. Maddie centers herself, blaming the weight of status. She leads them deeper into the estate, mentioning the benefactor who once sheltered them in secret. Lady Alma, a reclusive widow who opened her doors. It's time for the fake couple to meet her. 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 hesitates. Is it right for a mere contract fiancé to meet someone so precious to her? One moment they're clashing, the next she's introducing family. She slips inside, leaving him waiting outside. Standing in the lonely hallway, he wonders if she's just running away from her earlier emotional outburst. Still, he prays for her trust. Then, the enigmatic Lady Alma appears with a sharp, piercing gaze. She cuts to the chase. Is this marriage real? Do you truly love my precious Maddie? Caught off guard, he breathes a confession. I've loved her since the very first moment we met. He remembers that smoky bar, the poker table, her nimble hands weaving magic with the cards. Mastery of a craft is beautiful, he muses. Alma snorts. Gambling isn't a skill, it's an addiction. What else? She demands. He doesn't blink, her radiant smile. There is no one else like her. She's covered in scars, Alma retorts. She looks more like a common thug than a bride. Those scars are her strength, he declares. She isn't an addict. She's a fighter, a resilient survivor. He admires her relentless spirit, her unbreakable will. An ache remains when she is gone. He wants her close, but feels he isn't worthy. But Alma just laughs, shattering the moment, saying his words sound rehearsed. And then, 𝒂𝒓𝒂𝒈𝒆 freezes. The disguise peels away. It is Alma. The room is filled with breathtaking portraits. She calls this Henderson's Hellier. 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 is reeling. Henderson, the famed artist whose works are priceless. Maddie corrects him. Henderson was a phantom. The paintings, they are all her creations. 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 can't believe it. Such talent would be legendary. In response, Maddie's face begins to shift. The Baron, Nile, the flower seller, face after face appears. She is more than Maddie. She is a master con artist. She even offers to erase Astrid's identity, to create a new life, safe from the Empire's grasp. His expression turns to ice. She wants to send Astrid away. His fist clenches. Astrid is staying with him. He refuses to hide her in the shadows, to treat her like cargo. At that, Maddie grins. It was the answer she wanted. She raises a hand for a high five, admitting she wants to live with Astrid too. Maddie agrees with his choice. Distance is never safe. Only control is. And he realizes this was all a test. She saw his hesitation, she says, and wanted to show him his own heart. But her excuse only fuels his fury. She played games with a child's fate, turning every word they shared into another trap. He realizes she thrives on cornering people. Maddie just smirks, claiming pressure reveals the truth. He accuses her of never trusting him. She counters that neither of them do. This is simply her way. He remembers hoping for a future with her, even after their contract ended. Now, that hope feels like a cruel joke. Why the elaborate lies? Why not just be honest? He admits she proved how easily he can be fooled. He apologizes coldly for confusing his feelings with their business. He states he will follow her lead without question, and turns to leave, but Maddie catches his sleeve. Her voice trembles, begging him not to look at her with such cold eyes. Tears fall. Deception is the only life she knows. His resolve wavers, but he remembers how she has toyed with his heart again and again. He says he understands her mastery of the craft and tries to end it, but she pulls him close, whispering that if he sees her true self, he'll never forget her. She doesn't want him to leave her, to forget her. And for once, 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 sees no deception in her tears. Then she collapses into his arms, unconscious. Holding her, he confesses his deepest fear. If she disappeared, he would spend his entire life searching, unable to return to the man he was before. Maddie wakes up in her bed, to the sight of 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆's bare chest. Startled, she shoves him away, asking for Knox. 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 says Knox is with Astrid, and that he was disgusted to find him carrying her. Maddie feigns confusion, but he insists this is just another act. He reminds her of her desperate plea not to be forgotten. He demands to know what is real. Shocked, Maddie claims she remembers nothing, dismissing it as sleep-talking. But 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 pulls her closer, speaking to her as Alma, confessing that he can love no one but her. For a second, she is flustered. She then teases him to find a new woman, but he refuses, promising to cling even tighter. At this, Maddie walks away coolly, mocking his heartfelt confession as bad acting. He senses she feels more than she lets on, yet he wonders why he still hopes. To end it, he demands a drink. Later, Maddie carries a drunken 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆, grumbling about his tolerance. He marvels at her inhuman strength. She dumps him onto a cart of apples, simply telling him to get some sleep. He mentions Astrid, but it's too risky. He then jokes they should just claim her as their own and get married. Maddie muses that the Emperor must know about Astrid. The true danger is Crocton. As long as Crocton thinks Harvin has the child, the lie will hold. Her mind begins to race, but 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 stops her. Lying back, 𝒂𝒂𝒈𝒆 teases her, but Maddie leans down and silences his words with a kiss. Sprawled out, Ulikian continues to ramble on about marriage and a family together. He has no idea he's talking to a pumpkin, but then he pins her for a real kiss before passing out, leaving Maddie utterly speechless. Her heart pounds in her chest. She wonders if she's catching his arrhythmia too.